All I can say is Altovise Pelzer, when I get a chance to sit down and speak with you, I am speaking with royalty. That's all I'm going to say. I've watched you grow. I've been a guest, thank you, on Speakeasy. And I know that you are curious. You are a speaker. And wait a minute, we should have been running earlier because you were talking about being in Clubhouse. Haven't been over there yet. But see, you're a pioneer, girl. What can I say? So on this takeover, it's us. Yeah, I got a few questions for you, madam. A few questions. I've been watching you. There, I guess it's been about 3 months, 6 months, or something like that. You out there jumping your jump rope. Tell us all about that. What was that all about?
Oh my goodness. So a friend of mine was doing a challenge and it was the 100-day jump rope challenge. And I am not a big jump roper.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know if that's the word terminology, but I hopped in to definitely support. And it wasn't too bad. I only had a few days that I was like, okay, Siri, me and you not getting along because every day I had to ask Siri a number between 0 and 100. And when she gave that number, that's how many jumps times 10. That's how many jumps I had to do for that day. So imagine when I got the day that she said 100 and I had to do 1,000 jumps.
Ooh,
Oh, my
ooh.
legs were so sore. So sore, but I loved it. It was great being able to support the community. That's when I call him my little brother, Shannaan Dawda, down in Georgia, and it was great because it was a community online. So everybody that was doing it was all over. There were people across seas and Africa and different places that were joining in and submitting their videos, and it really made for a great human experience. I'll say it like that.
Believe it. And you always look like you were having fun. And I noticed that you were committed. You really, really were committed. Which takes me on over to the Speakeasy. You have been hosting the Speakeasy for 4 years now. That takes commitment. You know, the data says that people stop podcasting after episode number 8. And then I read after episode number 16. Then I read after episode number 20. But 4 years in, what made you decide I'm on a podcast? And what made you decide that yeah, the speakeasy. It takes you back to prohibition and that type of thing, but it's nothing like that. So take us back and help us understand what the speakeasy is all about and how did you make it for 4 years? And I'm sure you have 4 more years and 4 more years after that to keep rolling.
So it started with just an idea. Um, I was just like, for me as an introvert, I needed to find ways to network that worked best for me. For me, one-on-one conversations I can handle that as long as you're not calling me on a regular basis. But one-on-one conversations are really great. And having that space of really saying, you know what, this is comfortable. Like I create the atmosphere here as opposed to having to kind of fit in to somebody else's atmosphere. And so I said, you know what? That's one piece of it. And then the other piece was there are so many entrepreneurs out here in the world. Like I know we hear about the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musk and Grant Cardones, but there are so many entrepreneurs who are doing 5 and 6 and 7 figures in their business who have so much insight and wisdom to share. I said, you know what? I knew what it was like for me in my first 5 years of business. I wish that I had some of the people who I've had on as guests to kind of pour into me within those first 5 years. And I said, you know what? Let's go. That's who I'm talking to. That's who I want to serve. That's who I want to help. And it started with, first just me talking about my journey. And then it evolved into me doing interviews and connecting with people all over the world. It's been an interesting journey, but I definitely wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
I see it every time I tune in. I hear it all in your voice and that atmosphere that you create for your guest. It really is one full of liberty, and you listen because you care. And I can imagine you have learned volumes and volumes. I mean, you probably have a master's or PhD in business just from being a podcaster. What say you about that?
Oh my goodness, yes. You know how they talk about the 10,000 hour rule? Well, man, I'm way past the 10,000 hour rule because I not only get to interview these awesome guests, I get to talk to them, I get to, I get message them, email them. And over time, it's helped me grow in a couple areas. It's helped me grow as a business owner, it's helped me grow as a speaker, it's helped me grow as a person. Just because we've, literally, there's still so many things, especially in the African American arena, where it's taboo to talk about it. It's taboo um, to think about it. There's still people that are in hushed tones when it comes to human trafficking and domestic violence and things of that nature. When these things are very prevalent in our society and things that in order for us to stop it, we need to talk about it. And so it's allowed me to really dig in deep and get some roots in what I'm doing with my organization and helping women who've been through domestic violence and homelessness and, those who have gone through abuse in childhood and just those things. Each time I talk to somebody who's been in an arena or a realm where they've come from that and they've succeeded, I say, wow, every time I do an episode, every time we sell a program, every time we sell a book through World Voice League, money goes towards being able to support another child that can have a greater life like that. It supports a woman being able to get out of her domestic violent relationship. Like, it's so much bigger than what it originally started as, that I'm just like, wow, the education that I've received, the wisdom I've received from so many different entrepreneurs, from saying no on Shark Tank, like the owner of Zero Shoes, to starting a business, a 6-figure business, and been going for 30 years, like Brian Winch. Like, these are people who are in everyday life making things happen, and they didn't necessarily do the popular thing to do it. And I think that really stands out a lot.
Got you. The untraditional road, but you're kind of taking that same road. I'm looking at some of the people who have been on your podcast, and you're a shy type of a person. You say you're an introvert. Where did you find the grit and the gumption to approach these people and have the confidence to know that I'm going to extend this invitation, and I know that they're going to come and they are going to enlarge. They're gonna make this show richer than it was before they came.
So that was a crazy experience for me, because it wasn't until after maybe about the first year or so, maybe 2 years, that I started having this boldness in asking people to be a guest on the show. I was still pretty nervous. Listen, we think more than we act as introverts. And so, you kind of think of every scenario. No, I can't do it because I'm waiting for aliens to arrive, or any number of things, right? I mean, it is what it is. But I just had to go for it. And it was an interesting experience, but over time, I've learned how to word it in such a way. I've learned to respect people's time. And in respecting people's time, it put me in a place of being able to say, I'm coming to you because there's something I really do value about you. And I know that it's going to be something of value for my clients or for my listeners, or, in any number of ways, because I connect with people to bring them to do special master classes for my free Facebook community. I have them come and do special master classes for my private clients. I mean, I literally tap into, many different arenas when it comes to connecting with people. And I just recently, I had an episode where I interviewed two-time award-winning, Emmy award-winning Mario Armstrong. And it was crazy because we connected years ago on Periscope. And so I had followed his journey throughout doing the Never Settle show, like the pre-production, all of the stuff he went through, the highs, the lows. And then we connected again on Clubhouse. And the first time I was going to ask, I was so revved up, y'all. I was good to go. And he logged off right before I had the opportunity to ask him. And I was like, oh. So I had to go back in my arsenal and pull a question to ask because I was on stage. So I had to ask a question. And I always have great questions to ask. So I asked the question. It was great. But then I said, I'm going to connect with him. I'm going to get him on the show. And I did. We were in another room together. He pulled me up and I we talked. I gave insight first. I made sure that I gave something first. I wasn't just coming to ask him. And so I added to the conversation. And then I said, I would love to have him as a guest. And he said, heck yeah. And so we set it up. He was a guest. We did actually, I love doing live episodes. And so that was my first love when it came to podcasting. So we went and we did a live episode. It was great conversation. And I revealed on the episode that when he first did the Never Settle show, I wanted to be a guest on the show, or like I wanted to come do like a special segment or something. And so I was nervous and never asked. Mm-hmm. And so here it was, years later, I was asking him to be on my platform. And he said, I'm glad you never asked years ago. He said, because the experience that you're having right now, it's nothing. Like that experience that you would have had would have been nothing compared to what you're doing right now. He said, because I'm on your platform.
Wisdom. Timing. Oh my goodness. That is a gem that you are going to take to the grave. Wow. I hear you say a couple of times over a period of time. There are people that do not want to wait for anything. Give it to me fast, quick, and in a hurry. But had you asked for that interview when you initially wanted to, then you see the difference in span of time. I'm thinking you are a woman who has learned to value time and how to work time, how to stand in time, how to wait in time. And a lot of podcasters, people that are aspiring to be podcasters, entrepreneurs, what are your words of wisdom for them that I need to hurry up? I went into this thing thinking podcasting. I started as serious podcasting at age 61. So here I am thinking, I put on my age hat and I'm thinking, girl, you ain't got no time to be fooling around with too much of nothing. But then at the end of the day, yes, you have to slow down and you have to redeem the time. So I heard you say that a couple of times and I just had to smile. I thought, yeah, she's been through some things in podcasting, life, entrepreneur. Give some pearls of wisdom concerning time for us, please.
So that's interesting that you would bring that up. I value my time. It's interesting because I had to make a shift within business maybe about a few years back. And I had to start looking at my time as a value. And it came after leaving a full-time job. And, they tell you how much your time is worth. It came after, in the midst of me being in a community where, they still didn't really value your time. They wanted you to do this and be here and do this and do this. And it still wasn't a true value on your time. And I had to come to the realization that if you don't put a value on your time, then somebody else will. Gotcha. And that it's a harsh reality because we don't know how much time we have. And so if I'm always allowing somebody else to dictate the value of my time, then that's how we lead to the grave being the most valuable place on earth. It's because I allowed someone else to dictate what I was going to do with my time. And I said, wow, I saw this in working with my clients and looking at them and saying, no, your time is valuable. And I think we've been conditioned along the way to think that we have to abide by what somebody else tells us our time is worth. And that's not the case at all. It's not until we come into understanding not only the value of our time, but that I can do things like say no if it does not, suit my timing. I can go and I can condense down on things. I can go and I can shift things around. And I look at my children and I'm like, wow, I have 2 that are adults and 2 that are teenagers. And within a short amount of time, they will be all adults. The time goes very quickly. We may have those moments where we're like, oh, I wish they would walk. I wish they would talk. And then they get to walking and talking and we're like, I wish you would sit down and stop talking. Right? True. We had those moments, but we have to value the time that we have. And so being able to shut everything down in the middle of the day and watch a Christmas movie in the middle of January with my youngest daughter, I value that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she did too. That. She probably would not exchange that for anything. And you made memories with her. So
Exactly.
Were you on a 9 to 5? And God knows I am not knocking a 9 to 5 at all. But were you up under that umbrella? You never would have had that opportunity. You could not have made that impression upon her.
And you know what? I worked in retail, so it wasn't even 9 to 5. Retail management, it was whenever to whenever.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I believe it.
It was whenever they told you to, whenever they told you. And before I left the job, the straw that broke the camel's back for me was I have requested off. I am a single mother. And so I would always request off to go to my children's concerts. They would have a spring it was every year. They had a spring concert and they had a winter concert. And then as they got older, they had high school musicals and things like that. But at that point, I was already transitioned out of the full-time job, so I could make my schedule and adjust it accordingly. But at the time, I was working full-time, and I requested off in a month in advance because I don't believe in giving you something last minute. So a month in advance, I request off, and they put me on the calendar anyway. And so I took my dinner break, and I went to the concert. Mm-hmm. And I ended up being out for, I think, like an hour and 45 minutes. And I only had an hour break, but I was going to that concert. And I had no, I had no like second question about it. I had no frustration about like trying to make that decision. That was my decision because, again, I had already requested off. And so the manager was she was livid, right? That she called her boss, the district manager, and the district manager, came in and sat me down and wrote, I had to write up and all this other stuff. But the manager said, well, when she did speak to me, she said, but I needed you here. And I said, well, that was nice, but I had requested off for a reason. Mm-hmm. And the response after that was the straw. She said, I don't have to give you the time that you request off. And I said, you sure do not. And from that point forward, it's time to go. It's time to go. Because I value my family. I value the space that I'm in. I have a mother who, she did not make it to 50. And so she didn't see my younger siblings go to high school and graduate and go to college and or do the different things that they're doing. She didn't see her grandchildren, graduate high school and go off to college. And so there's a lot of things that were missed. And I'm like, I can't miss that. I can't miss that.
Had you not walked, made that conscious decision that so many people are faced with, you would not be the speaker that you are today. You would not be the podcaster. You would not be the parent. You know, we have of these kids and they are our responsibility. You would not be in position to make the memories. You would not be the Altovise Pelzer who is taking the world by storm on your own terms. And it's enviable for some people, and I'm looking at the time, I just want people to hear your story. You are an author also, so that they have access to your books. If they want out, then you are the perfect role model. You know, I'm definitely not telling anybody to quit your job tomorrow, which is exactly what I did after 26 years. I met a straw that broke the camel's back, and I walked after 26 years and never looked back. But they come to those crossroads. And when you are candid enough to share your story, I'm hoping that someone else will hear that and say, you know, I need to work on a business so that I will have a parachute or whatever they want to call it, something I can work on after I make this big decision. But Eltaviz did it. Margo did it. There are a myriad people who have done that. So thank you for sharing that part. I never knew that. I never heard that story. Everybody has their breaking point, and it's the is I is or is I isn't. What's it going to be? What's up for Altovise Pelzer? What are you working on? I know you're over here in Clubhouse now, putting your footprint up over there. Tell us what's on the horizon.
So for me, the next big thing that I'm doing is this program with Unmuted through World Voice League LLC, which is my business. And we did an anthology. And the anthology, the first in the series came out in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic. It was an Amazon best-selling book. And so what we're doing is something called the Unmuted Box. And the Unmuted Box is a box that we're sending out to women's organizations all over. So this book, and I talked about it, you know, in a room on Clubhouse, but I was just like, this book was not a book for me to make money off of it. And so any book sales for, you know, that come in from hashtag Unmuted, it's strategies to move from tragedy to triumph. It goes right into those boxes and delivering those boxes, and they're being delivered free of charge. And so we're cultivating this box and what's going to go in it, or like some self-care things, kind of like just some things for women to, first and foremost, we all know what it feels like to receive a gift. But when we can also receive a gift that is pushing us to another level, that is something in a whole nother realm. So they're going to have a journal, a pen, they're going to have the Unmuted book. They're going to have like socks and soaps and things like that in there as well. It's going to be a nice sized little box, but it's to uplift and shift the status quo. And so that's really major. And then the second in that series, we're going to be opening up that opportunity and having women come and join us who are ready to, you know, tell their story. So the first one, it was 9 women coming together to move, talk about strategies to move from tragedy to triumph. And then the second in the series is called hashtag Unmuted, Owning My Story. And so it's going to literally, these books in this series is going to take women through a progression of looking at what you've been through and the strategies to get through it if you're still in the midst of it, to really owning your story, and then to maximizing and monetizing will be that last in the series. So excited about that whole process, what that will mean. In the box, they'll just get the first book, or depending on how everything goes, they may get or one of the 3 books. Because I don't know how, however God is going to do it and show up and show out. I do have some organizations that are trying to come in and collaborate with us and connect with us to put things in the box or be a part of this process of getting the boxes out. So I'm excited about it.
Wow, I knew that was divinely given to you, because how else would you think to that? I mean, this is well thought out, to
Yeah.
from ownership of what's happened to here, this is the next level. Real quickly before I close out, how can you have organizations that are collaborating with you? Can other podcasters, other authors, can people just give a financial donation, or how can the world get up under this and be of assistance to you?
Oh, most definitely. So that was like an odd space for me because I never wanted to be that person that was going out and here's this amount you can send your donation to. But that was something that God really had to work on my heart with because this is needed. It's necessary. Uh, and so I opened up a Cash App for the business. And the Cash App handle is the $ symbol and World Voice League, all lowercase. Um, it was just, man, it warmed my heart to hear some of the different people that were like, wow, I love what you're doing. Wow, I've never heard of anybody, doing something like that. You know, how are you going to take it to another level? What are well, and then you always have those people that are like, well, how are you going to monetize it? I'm not monetizing it. this is not this is not for personal gain. This is for, you know, I'll say it like this. We always talk about being the change that we want to see in the world. And we think about the Martin Luther Kings, the Dr. Maya Angelou's. We think about, those who went before us. We think about who we just recently lost, Cicely Tyson. And, her talking about how, her being out and marching was not necessarily that wasn't her way in. That wasn't her way of helping and being the change. Her way of being the change was to present herself in a way in the movies and things that she was a part of in something that was edifying to our culture. And I said, that speaks like so to my heart and who it is that I am. I said, I've never been the one to follow the crowd. And so I wanted to make sure that I was putting something in place that was going to shift other people. Like I may not be able to be out marching, and because as a single mom, I want to make sure I'm staying safe. But there's other ways that I can go. And so we do things like through World Voice League, we donate to different organizations. We volunteer with organizations. One of the organizations we volunteer with is called Pandemic Food Distribution, and they're in Wilmington, Delaware. They literally, throughout the whole pandemic, they were doing it before, but they went to a higher level during the pandemic, and we're handing out food, so much food to people, no questions asked, no needing to sign up for anything, none of that. They were just handing it out and hand out like thousands and thousands of pounds of food to families in need, to the point where it got to one point where I think one of the days we did distribution, the Wilmington Police Department were literally pulling up in their trucks and getting boxes that they could go and drop off at other neighborhoods for people that could not necessarily make it to the drop off, to the pickup area. And, just things like that are really significant. They were highlighted for Disney's like Thanksgiving thing that they do. I had never heard about this whole thing that they do every year, but they were highlighted, and it just warmed my heart to be able to be a supporter, to be able to be one of the hands that can make the load a lot lighter.
Wow. World Voice League. I love what you're doing. I love your energy. I so love your contribution. And I am so glad that you left corporate to do your thing, that you the guts, the faith, what God had downloaded and put in you, I'm glad that it rose to the top, and here we are today. So on this takeover, I tell you, podcast takeover, it was so much fun to speak with you. I thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope that people heard a shift and movement, and they watch you so that they are courageous enough to do the same thing. All right?
Most definitely. I think it's one thing to talk about it. It's a whole other another thing to be the example.
Well, you are that. You are that, dear lady. You are that. I cheer you on, and I say, go on with your bad self. I know that's an old term. I don't care, but I mean it. You, girl, don't, go on, because there's such a need for a caring heart and a voice and courage, courage, and moxie. And that's what Black women, they say that we take over, we loud, we all this. Who cares what they say? I know what I see in you, and I love it. I appreciate it. I thank God for you. So thank you, Altovise.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you so much for hosting this takeover. It was interesting because when the idea was presented, your name was the first one that I thought of. I was like, I gotta have Ms. Margo do the takeover. Gotta have her interview me. I gotta have it because I just love what it is that you do and who you are as a woman. And I know that when it comes to supporting other women in podcasting and just in general, like you're always somebody who's been there and been willing to say, no, I give you your roses, I give you your flowers while you're here. And so I thank you for being that person. Not just that, but I give you your flowers because you are such an amazing woman and you continue to do some significant things. Just the fact of starting a podcast when you did is literally opening eyes of women who are in the greater years, not the later years, the greater years, and who are saying, you know what, I still have something to offer the world.
Yes, we have to know that. We have a lot to offer. We come from corporate, some have been housewives, whatever, but by the time you get to 50, 55, 60, you got a little something to say if you've lived deliberately. You have some you have some things to share with people that surprise even you. If you just don't think that you're running out of time, any of us can be running out of time, but giving out what God has given. So thank you. I accept my roses. I love flowers, and I thank you. This thing of podcasting, I'm in my office and it gets lonesome sometimes. And I have my head down and I love what I do. So you don't know who's watching you. But then an opportunity like this comes up and your words, girl, I, I, mm, I can hardly speak because I take it. I'm looking like, who's she talking about? You know, but when you consistently show up and you're doing it because God said you can do it, then okay, I'm convinced this is what happens. This is what happens. That's why World Voice League is able to have the impact that it has because you are consistent, bountiful. I heard someplace where, we have to give from a place of bounty and not scarcity. When we give from bounty, yeah, 8 podcasters can get on a panel and chop it up. And there doesn't have to be a one-upness for that. We don't have time for any of that. But when we get together and we share, we come from a place of bounty. And that place that you've arranged, that you have made for your guests when they come on your show. And God knows I have really tried to make it a place of comfort and communication when they come on my show. Those things make all the difference in the world. We learn from each other. We grow from each other. Our confidence can come from each other. You helped me with this confidence of approaching the influencers. I needed to hear that. So I thought, wait a minute, I boldly thought this is my opportunity. And this is what people don't know. When you are a podcaster, you have opportunity to ask questions that, hey, you want to know, but never had the opportunity to do so. I'm a talker. Let me shut down. Thank you, Altovise. Thank you. A million thank yous.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I thank you for doing this. Speakeasy podcast listeners, this is all for you. It's giving you some insight into your host, Altovise Pelzer, and what this journey has really looked like for me. But also, I want you to be inspired to know that the journey that you're on is just that, it's a journey. And so even with whatever you may be going through or whatever you endured, you can do some phenomenal things. You just got to keep pushing forward.
So true. So true.
And with that being said, guys, we love you. Make sure that you let us know how this episode resonated with you by leaving us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And until next time, don't forget to press it out. See ya.
Bye-bye.